We're back at the table with our special panel of local journalists who are helping us count down the top stories of 2016. Now, story number 6 is the controversy surrounding the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP. Allegations of fraud surfaced in May after a group of current and former state workers testified in federal court that they were instructed to falsify applications to keep people from qualifying for emergency assistance in order to clear up backlogs of applications. Julianne Grimm. In July, a judge recommended a special master be appointed to that program. Where do we sit now with this program after 2016? Are we headed in the right direction? What do you think?
I think there's still some question about how effective this new level of oversight will be. And I think there's still some serious question about the root of why this happened. You know, are we talking about rogue employees? Are we talking about a system where there was a quota in place that was unreasonable? Was this a direction from above to deliberately mislead and screw people over? I don't think we really have a clear answer about that, and so it's hard to know how they're going to really get back on the right side of it, other than maybe being honest and trying hard.
And just transparency and getting right down to the bottom of it. Exactly right. You know, Russell, when you think about this, overlaying all of this that we're talking about in this section, is the recent reporting on where our childhood numbers are for our kids in childhood hunger specifically. Those are the two things that we get feedback here at New Mexico and focus on a lot. How can the state be so insensitive given the need that we have?
And that we're not addressing our poverty.
Right.
I mean, even this, every election we come up, we're talking about the middle class, but no, we're the poorest, one of the poorest states in the country.
That's right.
900,000 people in this program that have to be on. Yep. And some of this frustration that we see of that is an attempt by state workers to try to address it and try to get people off this. But what are you getting them on? And that's always the issue. And no politician that I've seen any leadership on either side of the party finally addressing poverty like Robert Kennedy talked about. Right. And this is ground zero for it. Someone could take this and say, grab this and say, this is an issue that hits my core. These are the number of people on food stamps. We got to get them off, not because we don't want to pay for it, but because we want them not to go hungry. Right. Bottom line.
That's right. Good, well said. I appreciate that. You know, Steve, when you think about the numbers involved here, meaning the line where you either go under and don't get SNAP or you're over and you do qualify, it's just a frighteningly low number. It's a reminder that folks really need this program. You know, if you're making $1,000 a month, do you know what I mean? To take that away from someone that really has that little income, it's just so galling for a lot of folks.
Oh, it really is. And it, hopefully the transparency, the spotlight, you know, sunshine being the best disinfectant supposedly, right, will shine a light on this. But Russ is right, that the fact is everybody running for office says, I'm a fighter for the middle class. And that's great, but yeah, who's going to be a fighter for the underclass?
That's right.
And I don't see anybody coming forward on that.
Right. That's a good point. Is it winnable to be able to do? Can you win elections by taking that tact? I got to ask.
The sad part is the poor don't vote that much. There's a song I like called "The Poor Don't Vote."
Yeah.
But and that's why they're fighters for the middle class and they're working for the upper class, really.
It's a tough one, exactly. You know, Marisa, the SNAP program, going back to that, if to Julianne's question, you know, whether it's systemic, on order, rogue employees, I think that's actually kind of a big deal, because if it turns out that this is a culture inside this whole program, that has to be dealt with rather than just one or two people who were pressured for a deadline.
Sure. So I went to Portales and interviewed the first whistleblower, and I went to the trial in Las Cruces, and the whistleblower and so many other HSD workers that I spoke with told me that it was definitely coming down from the top. Wow. And there was even a supervisor who testified that her orders were coming down from the top, and she was passing them along to the employees who worked for her. Right. So this is, I mean, the impression that I got from attending the trial is that this was a widespread systemic issue. The judge ordered an internal investigation by HSD. HSD didn't complete it by the time that they had the hearing. There was a lot of questions about the veracity of the internal investigation. And so I don't think that we really have seen it's surprising to me that we haven't seen more than just a special master being appointed to HSD with these kind of allegations floating around, because you have to remember too that the funds that they're administering, those are federal funds. Those are not, state monies. So this is a much bigger issue when you look at it in terms of the accurate administration of federal money to the hungry people in New Mexico.
That's an important point. Glad you got that in. That it's
I think there's another issue at play as well, which is that you see, again, the Martinez administration has hired an expensive outside attorney. Paul Kennedy is being paid your tax dollars and mine to defend HSD when it's very clear that this was a systemic problem. And so why the administration is fighting it, with dollars in that arena rather than fighting it with dollars that would really go toward helping poor New Mexicans really baffles me.
Yeah, it's almost been politicized, Russell Contreras, so much that, again, no one can seem to step forward, like you said a little bit earlier, and take leadership and say, okay, this department is on my watch. This was my fault. I need to take, like a coach.
Exactly, yeah.
No one stepped forward to do that.
And admit that we have a losing season. We got to fix this up next season.
That's right.
And what the Democrats will say, well, they'll attack the Martinez administration for doing this, but then there's no alternative plan. Well, okay, how can we fix this? Not just fix the food stamp program, but makes people sustainable, so that they don't have to be on this program and they're not going hungry.
Right.
That's something that we haven't addressed.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in and say too that people were reporting that the problem spanned back as much as 20 years, and there was even in the trial this July, they were saying they uncovered a case from earlier that week. So this was a problem that had been going on for a really long time, and that still hadn't been addressed at the time of the hearing.
Right.
And that when we're talking about people not getting food stamps, and these are emergency food stamps applications, you really are talking about people who are in extreme need in that moment and need food stamps that week.
Just as a reminder, how much money was involved? Not in total sense, but if it was the number $300 is stuck in my head for some reason.
I don't remember exactly what the cutoff was, but I did speak to a woman who applied for food stamps, and through records we were able to prove that her application had been altered by HSD. We saw an altered application, and she's, for instance, she's somebody who does work. She works right now. She has a house, but she just really needed that money that week to get food for her and her family.
Marisa, pick up on what Russell and Steve were talking about a little bit earlier about this idea of just getting poverty and hunger just more to the forefront about how we talk about ourselves here. We've had information that if you take just the rural parts of New Mexico, we are the poorest state in the nation, just as far as rural folks are concerned. Someone has to step up here and say, we need to get after this, and it's on all of us to get after this. Would you agree with that? Does someone need to actually do that to make this thing move a little bit faster?
So we've seen, and especially because it is such a broad problem in New Mexico, we see the dehumanizing of the problem a little bit. So we don't see the people who maybe temporarily need some help, or who are in really bad situations, or the kids who are mostly getting their meals at school and not able to eat at home. We've really taken the face off of what hunger is in New Mexico. And I think there's actually been a lot of work by the faith communities in New Mexico who are saying, listen, when the state does not administer food stamps programs or supplemental nutrition assistance program, it falls on our churches to feed people. And so when people are not getting the help that they need, you're asking us to make up the difference. Right. And I thought that was a really interesting aspect of this whole story in New Mexico.
Glad you mentioned that. Julianne, where do we fit in this, the general press, about the idea of getting what Russell mentioned, getting poverty and hunger out there? I mean, it's not as if there's a lack of these stories in the press. Could we be doing more? Is there something different we could be doing?
I mean, I like the idea that you just brought up, Marisa, about the faces, and I think that it's, we do get into this habit as journalists where we're so focused on the policy, the courtroom, the legislative session, the city council
Politics,
chambers.
right.
Yeah, that we do, the people who are really affected become less of a part, maybe of our collective consciousness. So I think that's one way that, we can do a better job at this. But I think that much as we were talking about how the mental health issue and the corrections issue are so entwined, that, the poverty, economic development, assistance, all of those things are so, interconnected. And so if we as a community fail to address economic development, we're not going to be able to help some people, rise out of the lowest rank of the economic class.
Russell, to finish this section for us, you brought this up, and I love it, the idea of talking about poverty. The idea that, maybe if we are more vocal and upfront about our efforts, that would actually help our economic development efforts in whole. The people see we're putting a good 20-year, 30-year effort into something. Do you know what I mean? Like a real.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, because
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we don't want to talk about it because we don't want to embarrass ourselves
Right.
and hurt our chances to bring business.
That's right.
It's very, and a lot of folks, policymakers feel like if we discuss our poverty and are honest about it, the Facebooks and the Twitters won't come here because they're like, oh, we don't deal with that. But if you're honest and put it out there, and you actually have voices of the poor in our stories, a lot of times those people don't even realize they're poor. If it's the norm in your village or your city, you're not going to think anything different. You just think this is the way we live, and the people that live in Santa Fe or somewhere else in Placitas must live differently. And we need to put that face in there and be honest about what our challenges are, because we talk about it every year before the legislature starts. New Mexico Voices for Children always sends the press release right when the legislature starts to say, this is our child well-being problem. Right. And we're like, we know that. We know the statistics. It's time to put faces to it.
There you go. That's all the time we have. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gene Grant. Thanks for joining us for New Mexico in Focus this week. We'll discuss the top 5 news stories next week, and we appreciate your time and effort to stay informed and engaged. We'll see you next week in Focus.
Funding for New Mexico in Focus provided by the McCune Charitable Foundation and the Nalita E. Walker Fund for KNME-TV, the KNME-TV Endowment Fund, and viewers like you.